database, how do we design and communicate with the database using Node.js. Now here one more important you need to learn is about how we can configure the business logic. That means how we can read the data from the database and present to the UI so that JQuery can interact with it. So what we have to design is, so Node.js, Node.js interacting Node.js interacting with MongoDB. So Node.js interacting with MongoDB. This is what we need to do technically. How Node.js interact with MongoDB. So usually Node.js interacting with MongoDB. Yesterday we saw connection. Now we will see how to read the data and interact with the data. So yesterday the connection is this. So I will show you one more time. First, what we have to do, where Mongo client is equal to require. You have to import MongoDB in that Mongo client library. Okay. Then we need URL. URL is MongoDB :/127.0.0.1:27017. That is the port number. That is the address of Mongo server. So we need to connect. So Mongo client dot connect with URL, and a callback function will come. This callback function will have error and will have client object. So if not error, that means if there is no error, what should happen we will see. Else show the error. That means console.log error. What error is present? If not error, what should happen is this client object have to communicate with a database inside this MongoDB. That means what we have to do is where database is equal to client object have DB method. DB, which database? You have to mention database name. Database name yesterday we created Flipkart DB. That is the database name. That means now through client object, you can connect with the database called Flipkart DB. DB is a method which is used to interact with the database. Now, through this database object, we can read the data from collection. That means database dot collection is table. Which collection? TBL products. That is the table name. So dot find command will access the records. After accessing the records, we will convert that into to array. The records are converted into array. To array is a function which will read all the documents. To array is a function. It will have error and it will have documents. Documents means records. If there is a problem in reading the records in reading the records from table. This to array is to convert into array. We used pretty yesterday, I showed you. Here to array convert into array. And if there is problem in reading array, that means if there is error, if not error, then what it should do is the documents are present here. That means it will find the documents and store the documents in this variable, means in this parameter. Now we need to console.log documents. That means it will return the documents. That is how we need to configure. It is returning the documents. So we are configuring and returning the documents. Configuring and returning the documents. Okay, that is fine. That is how we configure and return the documents. So we are connecting with the database called Flipkart DB. We are reading the data by using find function. You can read the data and return those documents. So now once run this and see. I will open in command prompt. So just for your understanding, 6CMD, this is command prompt. Here node business layer .js. We are executing the program business layer.js and hit enter. Then it will get the records and display the records. And you can see the records are there. That means it is accessing the records and it is displaying those records. Accessing and displaying those records. So whatever the records are present, it is displaying those records. So that means if it is returning the records, means it is working fine. So connection is successful, reading of records is successful, and it is returning those records. So just what we are doing is, so we have to run this business layer .js. It will compile and execute them. And you can see all the records are returned in this format and display in this format. So we have data correctly coming here. Once data is coming, we can access the data and present the data. That means Node.js is ready. Node.js is ready. So here you can see this is the logic we have written to connect with the database and read the records. But this should be sent to the UI. This should be sent to UI. This is happening in server-side technology. It is happening in server-side technology. This should be sent to UI. That should be sent to the UI. How to send to UI? That will be taken care by middleware. That means now generally what happening here is up to this we have database. So here we have database and we have server-side Node.js. This is successful now. Now here we have browser. So browser is using JQuery and HTML. Into this we need to send that data. Then we need one more, that is middleware. This middleware will get the data and convert the data into JSON and send the data to the page. So actually middleware will create a URL. Through that URL, it will return this data. And whatever data comes from here, it will interact with the server. It will send to server. Server will send to database. That means we need to get the data. Up to this part, it is finished now. Up to this part, we done. Successfully working. Now we need a middleware. This middleware will get the data and send the data to browser. How we can use a middleware? There are so many middlewares, and one of the middleware we have is Express. Express is a middleware. So it is a middleware. Use it to handle communication with the database. Communication with the database. Actually handle communication between web server and application server, and it can do a lot of work. It can do different types of works, sending the data, transporting the data. So you need to install this middleware first. That means install middleware. So how to install middleware? Npm install express, that is middleware. So I need to install that middleware. Open the terminal. Npm install express. Express is middleware. Okay, it is downloading and installing express. After you install this middleware, so you install this middleware successful. Now what you have to do is import the middleware into Node.js program. So here we have to import the middleware. How? At the top, var express is equal to require express. Express is a middleware. It is imported. That's okay. After importing this middleware, so we have to create an application. Var app is equal to express. That means all the members of express middleware can be accessed by using app. Express middleware has a lot of things. We don't need all of them. Only the core express is required. So this express middleware is loaded into memory, which you can access by using app. So now what we have to do is on get request, this app has to send this data. Then what we do is we simply write API app.get. How the request should be? The request should be /get products. That is the request. If you request /get products, then so we have to call back a function. This function will have two objects: request object, response object. This response object can send data as a response to the client request. Now what we do is Mongo connection, reading the data, everything we will keep inside this get request, and what will happen on get request? The get request is like this: /get products. If the request is /get products, then what will happen now? If the request is this /get products, so it will connect with database. After connecting with the database, it should send these documents as a response. Then we have to use not console log, response.send. Those documents are sent as a response. Now this is ready. That means we are using express as a middleware. This express middleware is responsible for handling communication with your Node.js. Get the data from the Node.js. Actually data Node.js is getting from MongoDB. It will get the data, convert the data into JSON, and sends the data to the URL. Now application server should start so that we can make a request. how to start application server? We have to use app.listen. Listen. Listen is a method. Generally, servers will listen to your request. You make a request, server is listening to the request. So app.listen. So port number. Some I give port number 8080. Server is starting on this port number and it is listening on this port number. Server is listening on this port number. Started on the port number and listening on the port number. Then we have to put a message console.log. So here we will put a message server started. Server started. What is its address? http://127.0.0.1 port number 8080. This is how server started. You can give different port numbers. So sometimes already you are using Java, PHP. This port number is already in use. Then use a different port number. It will show a message port number is in use. Then use a different number. So now I will save this and compile and run this. And you can see now this time it says that server started. Okay, good. If server started, now open any browser and request that here. I am opening the browser, I am requesting. But actually in that server URL, so we have a method, a request called get products. So then what I will do here is I will make it request like this. http://127.0.0.1 port number 8080/get products and hit enter. It should get those products and display the products here. So we are making a request and it will connect to the API and it should get the data and display the data. It's taking a little while. I'll say Chrome. So http://127.0.0.1. If any error occurred, it should display that error. It is taking late time. It is taking a long time. Let's terminate this once. Some Mongo network problem is there. Unable to connect to this server. Right. So once check, okay, it is fine now. It took long time to connect it. That's the reason. Now it is working fine. So it is accessing the data and displaying the data here. Right. So some network took long time for that. Okay. Now you can see 127.01.80.80 and it is returning the data. This is the data we are having in our MongoDB. Now this URL is returning the data. Now what your HTML have to do? Your HTML have to get the data and use that data. Your HTML have to get and use the data. So for that, server side people will take care about all this coding, right? For that you learn in server side technology. Java people have a different approach. .NET people have different approach. Node.js is like this. In different technologies, different approaches are there. So here they will take care about all of that. They will give you just this URL. They will give you that URL. That means they will say that in this URL, this is the URL. In this URL, data is present. This is the URL, right? Get products. That is the URL. Data is there. And you need to just use that URL. Client side people, we even don't care about which technology is in the server side. Even when you go to interviews, generally in interviews in a UI technologies, what they do is they will give you URLs. Get URL is this, post URL is this, and they will say that here I am having data and you have to use this. Server is already running. You don't care about that. Use this URL. Our server is 24-hour online. Get the data and present the data in this design. Handle these interactions on the data. Screens they will give you, and data you have to bring from this data source. So now we have to write JQuery to consume this data and present the data. So we are using Express as a middleware to return it. Make sure that it is running in the background. You have to make sure that it is running in the background. So that means now the data is returned here. Once the data is returned, it is working fine. Now what we need to do is, we need to go to our project. Data is coming from that URL. You have to know that URL. So that is 127.01 and get products. Okay. Now go to your client side. This is server side. Go to client side and here add a page, home.html. Okay. In this page, we need to write the logic to consume and present the data. Then what we have to do here is we are importing doc type HTML in the head section and a script. So first we will put a link relation equal to style sheet and href is equal to no // node modules. In node modules, because I created several levels of folders in that bootstrap dist css bootstrap.css. And one more, we need script source is equal to and // node modules jQuery dist jQuery.js. Okay. Now here we are creating in the body section. In the body section, we are creating just a div and a class as container fluid. A heading, so or simply I just keep a button. A div, so class as form group, and here I defined Ajax demo, and here I added a button and a class as btn and btn primary. Okay, and here get data, that is the button. Okay, so below that we have another div and a class as form group. In that we are displaying a table. and class as table. So, and we have table hover. We are designing this. And important is here, we need to present the data here. We need to present the data here. So we have T head in table row in TH, we are expecting name and we are expecting price. These are the details. And we have T body. T body is empty. Only one table is there. Okay, now what we need to do is on button click, we need to get the data from the API and present the data inside the table. That means now this page is ready. You have to open with the server. I told you, if your live server is not working, don't worry. I told you how to work with localhost. You host the website on localhost, you type localhost, you know already how to use from localhost. Use localhost, right? So that means IIS, you use IIS. Now here, what we have to do now is on get data, I need to write a logic. So here we are writing a script. In the script, we are defining a function. Okay. So what should happen is, so button, because we have only one button here. So, or better, I will give an ID for this button as btn get. Okay. Here I will use hash btn get dot click. On click, what should happen? Click is a function. On click, I need to make an Ajax call. How do we make Ajax call? So dot Ajax. And here Ajax is expecting some properties. First property URL, from where data is coming. Data is coming from, you have to write the URL http://127.0.0.1:8080/get products. That is where from where data is coming. That is actually our API URL. That is the API URL. You have to define that URL. Okay, from there data is coming. Okay, now what we have to do is, if the request is successful, Ajax uses a done function. Done is a function. This done function will get the data, will get the data returned by that URL. That means on success, it will get the data returned by this URL. That means now data is present in this collection. That means data is present in that here. What we have to do, add to the table. That means here we need to use each function, $each function. And on the data, I need to perform an iteration. Then we will perform an iteration. So it will use key and value. Now here, I need to generate a row and add to T body. That means here we are using dollar and I'm writing TR. Okay. In the table row, we have TD. Okay. And what is the first cell? First cell will contain name coming from value.name. Okay. Second cell contains the price. That means dollar. So value dot price. We are accessing the data, and append to. So T body, append to table body. That's it. So we are reading the data from database through a server-side technology, and we are presenting the data. So this is how we define the Ajax call. If there is a problem, then actually Ajax uses another function. This is done function. Ajax uses a fail function. Fail is a function. This executes and this will display alert saying that something went wrong. So something went wrong. That means if there is any problem, it will display. Done function is enough. It will get the data and display the data. Now I will refresh this here. I will refresh that here. That means what is our page? We have to open that page. This is the page. I'll refresh this here and click on get data. So it has to get the data. It is showing something went wrong because already I told you course issues will be there. Cross horizon resource sharing issues will be there. So actually I will tell you how to manage that course issue. Right? See, initially let's open this on the browser. So the live server 55500. So it is localhost : so we have 5500/. We have client side. In that we have home.html. So this is not client side directly. It is a project client side. So in that we have project. In the project we have client side. So the home HTML will come. And I click on get data. It should get the data and show. Why it is showing some problem in another browser? Because actually server side people have to handle a issue called cross horizon resource sharing. What you do is to practice this example temporarily, you go to Chrome : apps. You go to Chrome apps. Right side corner, you will see web store. There will be a web store. Open that web store and download. Here download CORS. CORS, a plugin is present. This is CORS. So cross horizon plugin. Why? Because actually I told you about cross horizon while we learnt about images and all. Our server is in one IP address and port number. Node.js server is in another IP address and port number. Both are using on same computer. Then we will have a problem on sharing the data from one port number to another port number. Browsers actually block it. That is the reason to allow you install this plugin. After you install this plugin, you see in the browser right side corner, you can see a course plugin option will come. So you need to turn off and turn on. You have to turn on that plugin. If it is off, then what happens is when you click the data, it says something went wrong. Why? Because browser is blocking the request from another port number. These all will be taken care by your server side people. They will write the course related settings, configure them. That's a big concept. Here we have to enable that, on it. After on, once refresh and click get data. Now it is working fine. So you need to download that. So then you can easily access and present the data. Now you can see here, you are accessing the data through an AJAX call. You are accessing the data. And important, you are presenting the data. You are accessing and presenting the data. Remember, this is using an AJAX call. Data is coming from database and displaying. Data is coming from database and displaying. For example, so here, observe here. So AJAX demo, I given a heading here. AJAX demo. Okay. And you can see AJAX demo is the heading, gets the data and display. Temporarily, I will put a span here and ID as time. Okay. Now, what we are doing here is on the page load. So $#time.html. I need to add date time and bring the date time. That means here what we will do is, so var now is equal to new date. It will get the current date. That means through now you can access to to local time string, to local time string. I'm accessing the time and adding the time into it. That means what is happening is here time is coming. So 11:42:51 and I click get data. Data is coming and see seconds are not changing. What does that means? That means that see refresh once. Now the time is 11:43 9 seconds here 9 seconds and I click on get data. If entire page is loaded, this time should change. But when I click get data, it is not loading entire time. It is not loading entire page. Only this part will come. That means entire page is not loaded. Only this portion is loaded. That is what actually the concept of Ajax. And once you refresh the button, then entire page is loaded. Now you can see time changing. Now Ajax intention is to handle interaction with the backend and server side technologies. Without reloading the page, the new details will come and display. Here you can use all type of techniques. You can filter, search, sort, so many things we can perform here. So we have to create the database in that way. This is all complete end to end. How we can read the data, in the same way we can insert the data also. And in order to insert the data, so we have to use a lot of other options also. That means server side, in the server side coding, we need to write a method for inserting the records in the business layer. Currently we have only add products. For inserting also, we need to write a logic, and based on that we have to insert the data. See, this is not simply like in one day session I teach you all this. It can't happen. This is all server side technologies. Many people simply ask a point, sir, show me how to insert, update, delete also. It's not so silly, right? For that you need to know APIs, insert operations into the database. You need to learn everything. After all, you are learning UI technologies. And you cannot simply ask like, sir, show, insert, update, delete also. So you can't understand anything what is happening there until or unless you learn. Even today, what I showed you is very much confusion for the people who don't know any server side technologies and databases. So, but still we have to show how this works in real world. In future, when you learn server side technologies, how you use JQuery Ajax for interaction. To understand that, I'm giving this point. Generally, to insert the records, what we do, a lot of work is there. I'm just giving an overview here. What we have to do is we need to create another method, this time post. I will give the path as a slash add products. Add products is the method, and it uses a function, and this function uses a request and a response. It uses a request and response. Now what this function has to do is insert record into the database table. This have to insert record into database table. Generally, how it will insert into the database table, how this entire process works. For that, you need to learn so many things actually. So first point here is how data comes here. Data comes from your HTML form. You will design a form. From the HTML form, data will come. So when data comes from HTML form, this request object will collect the data from form body because it is on post method. Data will come on form body. We have to submit the data and we need to collect the data and insert into Mongo table. There is a lengthy process actually. First point is whatever data comes, you have to convert into JSON. For that, we need one more library. Actually, we need a library called body parser. Require body parser. We have to import this body parser. What body parser will do, what middleware will do is, middleware will use this body parser. That means app.use So it has to use body parser. That means app.use, it has to use the body parser. It has to interact with the body parser. Body parser is responsible for so converting the data into JSON format. App.use body parser. First body parser, so it has to use body parser. So it has to use body parser dot JSON. Body parser dot JSON. First we have to write body parser. We have to configure body parser. Body parser dot URL encoded. URL encoded. We have to define extended. Extended is equal to true. This extended equal to true. That means body parser will get the data coming from the URL. It will encode the data coming from URL. It will convert the data into JSON and gives to the middleware. Middleware will use the data coming from body parser in the form of JSON. In the JSON. After that, converting into JSON, now request object will collect the data. That means here we are creating data. The request data is an object. It contains two details. One is name. Name is coming from request.body. From request body, name property, the name is coming. Similarly, price. Price is coming from request.body.price. It is coming from price. Now, this data need to be inserted into MongoDB. That means again you have to write here Mongo client. So here Mongo client. So it has to connect with the Mongo client and configure everything same. That means here Mongo client has to use connect. Again, it should connect. Connect with that URL. Okay. Then we define a callback function here. So this function, this callback function is having error, and it is having client. Now what we are doing is if not error, so we have to get database, where database is equal to client.db. Which database? So Flipkart DB, that is the database. Now through the database, we can use database.collection, and to insert into MongoDB, we need an insert command, collection name. Collection name is TBL products. Dot insert, into that we need to insert which data we have to insert, the data that you have configured, insert. You have to use this point, insert. It inserts this data, and after inserting the data, it will use a callback function. So that means it has insert 1, insert 2. So that means it has insert. You have so many options for that. That means it will insert the data, and you can see it has callback functions. So this callback function, you can see that this is the callback functions. You can go to the definition actually for insert, how it insert works. You can see this is insert. What it will insert? It will insert a document. After that, it will have a callback. So that means this is inserting. After inserting, we will create a function, a callback function, and this callback function will have error, and will have result. If there is successful, if not error, then what it will do is it will display console.log, a message that record inserted. This is how we need to design the request for post. This is for the people who are learning server-side technologies and databases and all. I'm just giving you an overview that how we design all this. Right? This is generally learned by the people in full stack or Node.js or server-side integrations. I'm just giving an overview. For you, you can practice up to GET request. That is enough. I'm just giving an additional option here. Now the point is, this URL is getting, it is submitting the data. Add products is submitting the data. Now how you submit the data from your form, from the UI? That means here we need to design a form. You need to design a form. Let's create one form here to insert the record. So temporarily, okay. So this is the div. Okay. This is all. Okay. And I will keep a div and a class as box. Okay. In this div, we will keep it. And I will keep another div. So class as box. Okay. I'm just giving that box class. Or we can keep this in a row with columns also. That means here, so I will give like div, and this is class as row, and this class as call, suppose 4, call 4. Okay, and I will put here this as call as this is 8 columns, and close that div here. One is call 8 and call 4. Okay, that is just the design. So for our HTML page, design will be like this. So in the left column, the data will come. In the right column, I need to design a form. I need to design a form. Then in the right column, I need to design one form. So here we are designing a form, and here a data list data term. One is name, and we have a text box. Input type is equal to text. Okay, and ID as txt name. Fine. Another data term, price. This is another data definition. This is input type is equal to text, and ID is txt price. ID is equal to txt price. We are adding name and price. Okay. So text ID is txt price. Now here we kept a button. So button, and this is registered. So or add product. Okay, and this ID is btn insert. Now our intention is on the button click, we need to get the data and submit the data into this table, insert into it. That means on button click, we need to call another logic here. So I am using class as btn and btn primary. Okay, and here class as form control, and here class as so form control. So here we are defining, and we enter the data and we submit the data. And when I submit the data, this must be inserted into this table. It should be inserted into that table. That means we need to write a logic on btn insert click. So in our JQuery, now this is all on button click happened. This is get button click. Now we need to write another. So that is hash btn insert click. So btn insert click. On click, we need to define a function. On click, we need to define a function. What this function has to do, it should use an AJAX request. This time, method for AJAX is post. That means it should work for post. AJAX method is for post. On post, where it has to submit the data URL, it should submit the data into http colon same URL 127.0.0.1:8080 add products. That is the location where it has to submit. We need to configure that. And what is the data need to be sent into it? We need to collect the data. So that means we need to send the data. We need to collect the data. How do you collect the data actually? First, we need to collect the data. How we collect the data? So I am creating var new product. This is an object. It is having name. Name is coming from which location? $. It is coming from hash txt name dot val. It is coming from the text box. Price is a parse float. That means convert into number. So it is coming from where? So that means we have to use dollar. So dollar, so hash, so that is txt price dot val, because everything you entered in a text box is text format. We need to convert into number. Right, it is converted into number, and we are storing in new product. This should be posted to this location. That means we have to send data. What is the data? Data is new product. That new product is sent. And after that, simply I will put an alert saying that record inserted. After that, so I will use location dot reload will reload our page. We can reload the page, or you can simply call that get function one more time. It will get the data and display the data. Initially, the point is we are submitting the data. So collecting the data from the form by using those text boxes and posting the data. And as I already told you, this will not work until or unless you enable course related settings, configure everything. So course related settings also we need to write. Initially, I have to compile this one more time. Means the business layer one more time, because we made changes into that business layer. Server started. After server started, I refresh this here and get data. Data is coming. I entered some option like some laptop, and I entered some price here. And I click on add product. It says record inserted. And after record inserted, then that laptop should come here. It is showing null. That means record inserted, but data is not into that. Why data is not into that? Record inserted successfully worked. Why data is not into it? Why? Because we have to configure the course options where we have to enable the JSON format to collect the data and insert the data. That means what we have to do is, why data is not coming? Because here, so reading data is okay, but sending the data requires data inserted. Actually, you can see that empty record came, null came. That means your values are not sent, because here we have to collect the values and we need to send these values into insert. Insert is expecting the data. What we have to do is we need to enable course options and parsing of JSON, which will convert that into a JSON format and send. For that, we need to write some course related settings inside this server side concept. That is huge. That is for the people who know about it. But just I'm showing you one spot. I will give you entire code of this. You can try it, right? How to insert the course settings also. But don't try to understand what is that course related settings written in Node.js until or unless you learn Node.js. If you have learned Node.js, then you can handle it. If you haven't learned Node.js, then it will be risky for you, right? That will be risky for you. That means whenever you are trying to use, so the body parsers and all this, so it's very big problem that course related issues will come, because you are trying on same machine. When you are trying on same machine, this issue is very regular. So that means on the same machine, you are see in the database here. In the database, it says it is showing record inserted. That means it's working fine. But the problem is, let's open the MongoDB server location database and see. Command prompt and cd /cd program files and cd server. cd MongoDB cd server and cd 4.0 cd bin. Okay, and Mongo. And it is starting the MongoDB server. It is starting the MongoDB server. Once we that use Flipkart DB. So that means it is using that Flipkart DB. And once it is using this Flipkart DB, that means it is finished with this Flipkart DB. Then what we have to do is, so we need to go to the table and see what records are present inside it. What records are present inside it. So that means we need to go to the data and see records present inside it. Let's go to the records and see here. So that means db.tbl products dot find and tbl products dot find and dot pretty. I'm using this, and you can see the last record is shown as null. The last record is shown as null. That means record inserted, but data is not there. So this situation usually comes so because of the coarse ratios and parsing of data into JSON form. If data is not parsed into the JSON form, then it is unable to access the data and use the data. That means collecting the data and handling the data is important for us, right? So this complete example I will upload. The complete example I will upload. You can see that, right? The complete example I will upload. But it contains course related settings also. Course related settings also. So you don't worry about those settings until or unless you learned about database. Actually, we need to write course related so many settings. So I can temporarily enable that option like this, right? I will use in this way. Suppose temporarily. So app has to use this body parser. I'm writing app.use and body parser dot URL encoded, and in that extended is equal to, so URL encoded. Okay, that is a method you have to write. So body parser dot URL encoded, in that extended is equal to true. And actually, after defining this, we need to write course related settings here. Generally, course related settings, how we configure is we have to use app.use, and we need to write a function. This function will have to use so many options like request, like response, like next. All these options we need to write. So response.header, we have to write the header. What type of data control and how it has to access? We have to write access control, allow origin, allow origin from every location. You have to write these settings. So response.header, we have to write access control. So we have to define access control, and allow, we have to define allow header, and we have to use what kind of content header is allowed. That means we need to define origin. Okay, so it's a lengthy one. Origin, and I think we have to write X. Yeah, requested with, and the content type. What content type we are expecting? Content type, and accept. This is all the course related settings we need to configure there. So, and not only that, we need to define the methods. What we have to configure, the methods also we need to define. So the methods means we need to use, so response dot header, and here access hyphen control, and here we have to define allow methods. Which methods you want to allow? So we have to define get method to allow, post method to allow, so put method to allow. We need to define the methods to allow. We need to configure all this. We need to configure all these settings. We need to define and configure all these settings. So we need to configure all these settings. These are all important. You cannot simply manage everything. We need to handle all these, right? So you can use anything, right? See, stringify, some nonsense and all, not required actually. That is only when you are genuinely dealing with server side technologies and middlewares. This is stringify and all are from the people who don't know proper server side technologies, right? So actually that is all done by middleware. We don't need all of them. The body parser is enough, and it has to execute by using the next method. Next method. We need to execute the next. Course and parsing of data, everything is important here. So we need to manage all this. Manage all this. So then you can handle the data. That means then you can handle inserting of records, updating of records, everything, because it has to support these methods. Post, put, get, delete, like operations, it should support all these options. Otherwise it will not work, right? Actually this all settings are not required. Actually, if I have this plugin, I told you about this plugin. If I don't have the plugin, so and here I will compile this code one more time. Business layer, and here we are adding that. So we are configuring refresh here. Data is coming here, and I am entering some laptop, and some price is defined here, and add product, record inserted, get data, that laptop will come, right? These are all important. These are all general things, right? So much is there to handle interactions here. So much is there to handle interaction. So course related settings, this is generally how the course related settings are written, as I showed you in that, right? Course related settings, how they are written. These are the course related settings we have to write, right? These are all basic things. Otherwise what happens is it will not allow you to send the data. Now it is sending the data, it is having the data. And if you don't enable this, everything will not work actually. You don't need this actually if you write these statements. Understood? If you write these all course related settings, you don't need this plugin also. You don't need this plugin. Without this plugin also it will work. It will work. So you have to install the plugin on the browser that you are using. Otherwise it will work here. This is a complete end-to-end example how to deal with Ajax. So you have to try this example. I will post this entire example. You try this example, okay? Right. Once you are aware of this, once you're done with this, now one more option is there, JQuery UI. I will tell you that JQuery UI. With that we finish the concept, right? Tomorrow we will discuss about JQuery UI.